Hi, I'm Barbara Carr with Fuse Empire, and this is lesson 2 of Master Your Time. Lesson 2, how are you using your time now? Our scripture for this lesson is from Luke 12:39, and this is the Living Bible translation. Everyone would be ready for him if they knew the exact hour of his return, just as they would be ready for a thief if they knew when he was coming. Really think about that. Like, would you be more prepared to not be robbed in your own home or your vehicle if you knew a thief was coming? Would you be prepared for it? Or if we knew Jesus was coming back today, would we be prepared for it? Well, I think that goes back to knowing how you're using your time. If Jesus came back today, would you say, oh, hold on a second, I have something else I forgot to do, or I have too much on my to-do list? Lesson 2, how are you using your time right now? The scripture verse for this lesson is from Luke 12:39, and I've pulled it out of the Living Bible. Everyone would be ready for him if they knew the exact hour of his return, just as they would be ready for a thief if they knew when he was coming. Isn't that true that if we knew a thief was coming, we'd be prepared, sitting by the door maybe to scare him when he tried to rob us? And don't we all want to believe that we'll be ready for Jesus when he comes? But the truth of the matter is we don't know the hour that he's coming back, and we may or may not be prepared for that. So I'm going to take you through a series of exercises that will hopefully help you to be better prepared for the coming of Christ and also what your day-to-day world looks like. So go ahead and take out something to write with and something to write on, because your first assignment is to make a list of your top priorities in your life right now in order. So priority number 1, priority number 2, priority number 3. So go ahead and make that list, and I am going to set a timer for you. And if you don't need all of the time, just fast forward when you've made the list. Aim to get around 5 things on your list. If you're a super busy person, you might have up to 10. But at the very minimal, put 3 things on your list, okay? How did you do? Do you need more time? If you do, feel free to pause the video and take as much time as you need. In fact, every time we do a timer, I'm going to ask you to use as much of the time as you possibly can. If you don't need the time, feel free to fast forward through it. But if you need more time, just pause the video until you're ready to continue. I want to make a few things clear regarding the exercise that we just did. The first thing is that our priorities will change over time. Our priorities that we have today probably look different than they were 5 or 10 years ago, and will likely look different than our priorities 5 or 10 years from now, and that's okay. Also, there's no right or wrong order for a list of priorities. So don't think, am I getting this right? Because there isn't a cookie cutter answer to this. And another thing to keep in mind is that your priorities are going to look different than my priorities, and that's okay, because we are all different and unique. We all have different desires and goals and wants and needs. So don't compare your priorities to mine or to your neighbors or to your spouses or to your best friend or anybody else. Just keep in mind what your priorities are as we move forward and focus on those priorities. Okay, I want to share a story with you that might help to bring the point home of what I'm trying to make going forward. Once upon a time, about a decade ago, early in my business journey, my kids were probably about 4 and 6 at the time. And I was working really late at night. It had to be about midnight. And I'm typing away on my computer, doing work for my clients, sitting on my couch in my living room at my home where my family is. And I had been telling myself that my kids were my top priority. More than anything in the world, they're the most important thing to me. And I did truly believe that. It wasn't that I was lying to myself or lying to anyone else, or that I didn't want them to be my top priority. I just didn't realize what my actions were portraying, and I didn't know how to make what I love the most my top priority. And so what happened to help me acknowledge this was, as I sat there typing away, doing my work, feeling good because I'm in my zone, I'm doing what I'm good at. My youngest child, Alyssa, at the time, had come to me with a book in her hand and a sweet little smile on her face and says, "Mommy, could you read to me?" And I responded with, "I can't right now. I'm busy. I have to do this." And I went right back to work, and then I watched her walk away with her head hung low and her heart broken. And at that moment, I realized that I was putting my work above my children. And not to say that that can never be done, but the way that I responded was not okay. And it went against everything that I was saying that I stood for and what my priorities were. And so I thought to myself in my head, "Barbara, why are you even doing this? Why did you want to become a stay-at-home mom, a work-at-home mom? Wasn't it so that you could spend more time with your kids, so that you could be with your kids, so that they can be number one on your list?" And the answer was yes, that is why I wanted this. The reason I wanted to work at home so bad was to be with those children more that I loved so much. But that response didn't show that. And so, because I recognized I was wrong, I closed my computer, set it aside, followed that beautiful little girl into her bedroom and cuddled her and told her how much I loved her and read her the story that she wanted and watched her face light up because mommy responded properly. And depending on the ages of your children, look at me get all emotional. Okay, I should warn you guys right now that I am an emotional wreck because I have been through a lot. So, just bear with me. If you see tears, just know that those are healing and joyful tears. So, depending on the age of your children, they might not be your top priority right now, and that's okay. depending on, if when they as they enter into adulthood and they have lives and families of their own, you will likely drop down on their priority list as they will on yours. And that's okay. Our priorities do shift in order. But the important thing is making sure that we know our priorities and that our priorities and that we stand up for our priorities. Because if we don't, other people will walk all over them, including ourselves sometimes. Do you know how many hours are in 1 week? Math problem, right? You're like, I didn't know this was a math class. Well, there'll be some math problems because that's part of life. The answer, if you haven't figured it out yet, is 168 hours every single week. Let's say that you are one of those rare people who sleep for 8 hours a night, 7 nights a week. So you're sleeping away 56 of those hours every week. That still leaves you with 112 hours per week to work with. Okay, so you're like, well, I have a full-time job. Okay, so let's take 40 hours off of that. And what does that give us? 72 hours. You guys, you still have 72 hours a week after you work and sleep to do whatever is important to you, whatever is on your priority list. You choose what you are going to do. We all have the same amount of time every day and every week. The only difference is in how we use that time. So, knowing now that you have all this time, knowing now that you have 168 hours per week, you can never use the excuse of, I don't have time for that. Because the truth is, you have 168 hours every week to do it, or 24 hours every day to do it. We make time for what our priorities are. So when you say, I don't have time for that, what you're saying is, that is not a priority to me. And that's okay. In fact, I've actually responded to people when they've asked me to do certain things. I've actually responded in a way of, you know what, I don't have the time for that because it's not a top priority for me. Or I don't think I could make the time for that at this particular moment in my life because I'm focused on other priorities. It is okay to say that, you guys. People will respect you so much more. All right, so let's see what we should do with those 72 hours that we have extra outside of working and sleeping. Another exercise, I hope you still have your pen and paper out. If you don't, get it out. All right, here's what we're going to do next. I want you to take out your calendar, all of the calendars you use. If you use a digital calendar, pull that out. If you use a paper calendar, pull that out. It would have been great if I had my paper calendar next to me right now, but it's upstairs. But I actually use both. I use a digital and a physical calendar, and I'll explain in another lesson how I utilize them and why I use two of them. But we're not going to do that at this moment. Right now, I want you to take out all of the calendars that you use. Put them in front of you. If you need a whole floor to do it, then by all means, take up the whole floor. And as you have those calendars in front of you, the next thing I want you to do is review what's on your calendar for the past and upcoming week. So the past 7 days, what was on your calendar? The upcoming 7 days, what's on your calendar? Make a list of those things. Everything that was on your calendar, or if you don't utilize a calendar, I know some people don't, they just do what they do, then make a list of all the things you can remember that you did in the last week and all the things you plan to do in the next week. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do that because that's how much time I always give people in every exercise, just because it's a nice general number. If you need more time, pause the video. If you need less time, then fast forward the video. I think you know the drill by now. If you need more time, just pause the video and finish the exercise.